that loneliness that I felt was more, it was not the disconnection externally, it was the internal disconnection.
Mm.
It was kind of this, this exile that wanted my attention, and that behind all the grasping around substances, it was really trying to pull my attention to feel into this more.
In a world moving faster than our minds were designed to handle, mental health is becoming one of the defining challenges of our time. Welcome to Mental Health in a Modern World with holistic health practitioner Greg Schmaus. After overcoming severe anxiety and OCD in his own life, Greg dedicated the past decade to helping others heal through a fully integrated approach to mental health, combining lifestyle coaching, psycho-emotional healing, mindfulness, and archetypal work. Over the years, he's facilitated thousands of sessions, guiding people back to peace, clarity, and a deeper connection with themselves. Each week, Greg shares powerful solo insights, conversations with leading voices in holistic healing, and immersive live coaching sessions that take you inside the healing process itself. New episodes every Friday. Follow the show and start reclaiming sovereignty over your mind in a modern world. Here's Greg.
Mac, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Excited to see this project launch, and it should be a fun conversation today. So
I'd love to start just by you sharing a little bit with the listeners just about your journey. What kind of brought you into this work? What inspired you to, reach out to me and you and I doing some coaching together? So I'd love to just start with a little background so people know, who Mac is and, what brought him here.
Yeah, really what brought me into this work was, my own healing journey. Definitely around addiction is where it's really been focused. I grew up in a very religious household and then spent the last 10 years or 12 years now really trying to find my own path in spirituality. And so it was something that I've always felt pretty spiritually aware, but didn't really have, framework or guidance or something to help me really understand it fully and find a good solid framework for it. Right. And so part of that is that, I've had this dichotomy of like being very, in touch with my intuition, but also struggling with a lot of addictive behaviors and patterns that were really, kind of very detrimental to my own mental health and my own mental health journey. And so really it's been this, journey of trying to heal holistically, and with addiction, I just needed somebody to help me, walk that path and finally get to a place to where I could really feel, like I have a handle on a lot of those behaviors. So that's how I found you, and I had really heard good things and knew that I needed someone of a guide or a mentor to help me get to that next level of growth. Right. So that's what brought me here. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so today's going to be a unique episode where you're actually coming on as a client and you and I are going to do some coaching and healing work together. So if you and I were to dive into some content together and do some work, what is it that you'd like to focus on?
Yeah. I think for me, there's still a bit of, some addictive tendencies and things that I'm still tying the loose ends up on. So I think I want to dive into that around diet, especially substances, a few things there as well, that how they're relating to some pieces in my body as well. So I have some pieces that are pulling at me, some parts that we can get into today. I think that also as I'm stepping out of, a career in tech and, sales and wanting to move more into coaching work and things like that, there's a lot of blocks with my voice and things with my confidence that way that I think we can get into today as well. So I think that'd be some good content to dive into. Yeah.
Awesome. And so if we were to start with one of those, either the addictive patternings that still show up or some of the blocks around your voice and stepping into a new career, what would be your top priority?
Let's actually, I think the things with my voice and stepping into a new career, I think a lot of the addictive tendencies can actually tie into that as far as, having the vitality and the energy to actually do that and to create, right? So I think that they'll tie in together. Yeah.
Okay. So would you like to start with the addictive tendencies or go right into the voice and career piece? I mean, they might tie together, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious, which feels like an entry point?
No, I think the entry point's going to be the addictive tendencies. I
Okay.
can not spin now that I think about that. Yeah, let's go that route. And then it'll lead where it goes. So, yeah.
Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll do a combination. We'll start with a little breath work just to kind of ground and center together. And then we'll go into a mix of some parts work that's based on, Richard Schwartz's IFS system. And we'll also bring in some potential constellation work, working with some unconscious contracts that often show up in these areas, which is based on a lot of Sarah Payton's work. So we might do a little bit of a hybrid, of those two approaches, which, as you know, have worked quite well.
Yeah.
Does that sound good for you?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to start with a little just brief breath work and meditation. So, the listeners are obviously welcome to join in on that practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to close the eyes and just place one hand on the chest and one hand on the belly. And as you do so, just beginning to breathe in and out through the nose. And begin to feel the movement in your torso with each breath. Seeing if you can feel a little bit more movement from the belly than the chest. So a little more movement from the bottom hand than the top hand. And just beginning to slow the pace of the breath down a little bit. Allowing for a little pause at the top and bottom of the breath. And so noticing the 4 phases of each breath. There's the inhale and the exhale, and the top and bottom pause. Now, just for a minute or so, we're going to add a box breath tempo or a square breath tempo. So we're going to inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for 4. And hold for 4. In for 4. Hold 4. Out 4. And hold 4. In 4. Hold 4. Out 4. And hold 4. A few more breaths. In 4. Hold 4. Out 4. And hold 4. One more. In 4. Hold 4. And out 4. And hold 4. So Mac, I just invite you to let your hands just rest on your thighs and your lap, wherever feels comfortable. And so what we're going to do is we're going to invite in this part that has a tendency to still grasp for, addictive patterns, addictive tendencies, whether it's substances or anything else. And as you invite that part in, just see where you notice, where you find it somewhere around your body.
The part that's pulling at me the most right now is in the right pec and shoulder.
Mm-hmm. And what do you notice about this part when you begin to focus your attention on it there?
That it actually feels like it's grasping at something, like there's a knot or a fist in the pec.
Mhm.
Um, and it feels like there's a bit of anxiety behind that as well.
Mhm. And if you can just begin to get curious what this part is grasping at, see what it wants you to know about that.
You know, it initially feels like a piece that wants to control things,
Mhm.
um, control my state is how it feels.
Yeah.
That there's a little bit of maybe a lack of trust there and
Mhm.
surrender.
Right. And how does it go about trying to control? What is its method of trying to achieve that?
The control comes from, well, first it comes from a place of feels like blocking maybe big emotions sometimes that
Mhm.
make that part feel like it doesn't have control.
Mhm.
Um, and I think this part has a tendency to want to reach for things outside me, whether that's cannabis or excessive caffeine use to really control like my energy state. So almost it feels like it's controlling out of avoiding emotion, but then also when I feel low vitality, reaching for something to boost that. So it's like an
Mhm.
energetic thing as well. Yeah.
Sure. I'm curious about this part's attempt to try and block big emotions. Would you be open to asking this part where it learned to do that or where it needed to do that in the past?
You know, what initially comes to mind is around 17 or 18, I fell into a pretty deep depression at that time,
Mhm.
um, that went on for a few years. And it feels like that's when, you know, I really started experimenting with substances and other things to really manage my state and like self medicate. Um,
Mhm.
but then it also feels, it goes back earlier too, like into my adolescence. Then it wasn't so much substances, but it was around pornography and like sexual compulsion. So it's like kind of twofold with those time periods there.
Sure. And so I'm curious what this part that reaches for these vices, what it's afraid would happen if it didn't do that and you actually were exposed to those big emotions. What is it afraid would happen?
It's afraid that I would lose my composure.
Hmm.
It's afraid that almost feels like it's afraid it'll descend to the depths and maybe won't be able to come out of those
Hmm.
emotions.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like unfamiliar territory.
Right. And so it sounds like we're really starting to see the protective nature of this part,
Mhm.
that its addictive tendencies are all trying to protect you from some of these areas. And so, given that, how do you feel towards this part that's been trying to do this for you?
Well, I feel like me and this part are very familiar.
Mm.
And I don't have any ill will towards the part. It's actually like I can see its purpose, and it's very much like we're friends in that perspective. I don't have a lot of judgment towards it.
Great. So you understand it. You have some even compassion for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let it know that and see how it reacts to that. See how it
You know,
receives you in that way.
so I let it know that my shoulders able to depress a lot more. It's opening up,
Great.
and I feel this peace opening up through my throat here too, and into
Great.
the collar.
Great. And so before we go forward, let's just see if this part, now that we're really cultivating this relationship, if there's anything more that it wants us to know about itself and the role that it's been playing for you.
What's also coming to me is that this part reacts not just to emotion, but to like discomfort and inflammation in the body as well. That some of that protective behavior is also trying to regulate when I feel inflamed or there's something that feels like outside of just an emotional discomfort, more physical discomfort as well.
Yeah. So it really is highlighting how much it keeps you away from discomfort or
Mhm.
anything that would dysregulate your system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if this part is open to sharing, it mentioned more childhood or going back much further, where you kind of had to keep your composure or where it wasn't safe or okay to, you know, um, be messy or be vulnerable or allow for some of these big emotions. I'm wondering if it has any insights for you on some of those origins.
It goes back to my home life. Um, Especially like the dynamic between my parents and my siblings. There was a lot of big emotional and sometimes a little bit volatile people in the home.
Hmm.
And I think I took on an unconscious role of being like the mediator to that and the one that tried to keep my composure so everybody else can learn to regulate themselves, right? So it's like trying to regulate everyone else.
Right. So as a result of needing to not just regulate yourself, but needing to regulate everyone else, then this part ended up having to reach for other means to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Yeah. And would this part be open to sharing around how old you were when it started stepping into this role of regulator and mediator?
Yeah, I'm getting 13 years old, around sixth grade, I would say.
Yeah. And so if this part is 13 years old, I'm curious if it has any sense as to how old you are.
It still feels like there's a split there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite caught up to this time period.
Yeah. So see what happens when you let it know how old you currently are, and even just kind of where you're at in your life, including the environment that you're in. See if you can get this part to begin to orient itself more to this current time period and see how it reacts to that.
There's a sense of like energy flowing down this arm now towards the hand.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe it as a feeling of more like flow versus grasping.
Yeah.
It's like this, the anxiety behind it is just easing there.
Mm-hmm. So you notice as you bring it back into this time period that it starts to shift in your body.
Yeah, especially when it knows that it is only responsible for regulating me, not everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we can even take that a step further, that it doesn't even need to be responsible for regulating you, that you can begin to help support it. So I'm wondering how it reacts when we take it even a step further.
As I let it know that, I feel this energy go to the third eye. Like, I know how to regulate myself. I have the knowing of how to do that without this part needing to protect.
And is this part willing to even open up a little bit more space so it can see that you're able to do that?
Yeah, it's really, the throat and this whole area is just really relaxing. I feel spacious there. Yeah.
Great. And is there anything that this part needs from you specifically to begin to allow you more and more of that space to self regulate without it needing to grasp for anything else?
I'm getting that it wants me to use my voice to speak about these emotional states, not just to keep it. Because I'm seeing now that that piece was also a part that shut down my voice in the name of holding it together, right? So instead of grasping and holding it in, it wants me to express is how it feels.
Great. And so I'm wondering if that is also the bridge between this part and the other area of work, which is the blocks in the voice in your career.
Yeah, that feels like it. Um, it's like instead of silent regulation and of other people, it's like getting like voice and like leadership.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I'm wondering if it would be okay with this part if we went into the throat now to see what parts might be involved there, and we can, come back and check on it once we're complete. Is that Does that sound okay?
Yeah, it feels like that tension pattern just moved more into the throat now.
Great. So let's go into the throat and just see what you notice in terms of any parts, any blocks, and let me know what you find.
Feels like there's a pin sitting right here in my throat.
Mhm.
Um, feels like fear. It feels like there's some clenching in the jaw as well.
Mhm.
Um, and this feels like the piece, especially the pin here, that blocks like better projection, like even from a sound perspective.
Mhm. And if you ask this part what it's afraid of in terms of that projection of voice, I'm curious what it says.
There's somewhat of a trepidation to misspeak and be perceived like there's not enough earned authority behind my voice.
Mhm.
Um, there's somewhat of a fear of allowing the emotional state to be spoken.
Mhm.
Because it feels like I spent my whole life managing my emotions silently,
Mhm.
that this piece is hesitant to allow expression around that because it's just something it's never allowed me to do.
Yeah. And so it sounds like this part's been kind of keeping that uh kind of shut down for a long time.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm wondering why this part initially needed to do that. What were the circumstances that it needed to shut your voice down?
It feels like it's coming back to religious environments.
Mhm.
It's not even so much the home, even though my home was very religious, but it was this notion that you should never speak out against the church.
Mhm.
that there's always doctrine to hold to, and that anything that explores outside of that shouldn't be spoken, is where I feel that
Right.
pattern's coming from.
So I'm wondering if this part in your throat is protecting you from persecution. That if you speak your truth, there's a potential of being persecuted.
Yeah, that feels really accurate.
Yeah.
Not wanting to be judged, yeah, and persecuted, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel towards this part that's carrying this burden, which is what we might call a legacy burden or an inherited burden?
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like a piece of me.
Mm-hmm.
That it was more a conditioned thing rather than a natural state that I
Yeah.
would be in.
Yeah. And how do you feel towards this part that's carrying this inherited burden that wasn't really originally his?
I feel some sadness and grief for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I still don't feel like there's any judgment toward it, just empathy that it had to operate that way and felt like it needed to take on that role.
Of course. And it made sense at the time to shut it down in that way, especially when you were much younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's this part's awareness of you present day?
I've started to exercise this part a bit more in the last year, say 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as I still feel into it, it feels like, it's still around those patterns around the adolescence and high school age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the fear of persecution for this part wasn't just from the church, but then it was with friends and peers as well.
Right.
And I never felt like I could speak without judgment being very close behind it.
Right. And so I'm wondering if this part is also protecting another part that's still carrying some wounds around those times.
Yeah, if I go directly down just to the right heart space,
Yeah.
not so deep into the pec like that first piece, but it's more in the midline.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this masculine wound here.
Yeah.
Because as
And
I
so,
picture this,
mhm.
it's all around, male peers and friend groups.
Yep.
Um,
And so I'm wondering if we were able to help this part that's still carrying some of those wounds, if this protector in the throat would be willing to open up more space for your voice.
there's still a bit of resistance there.
Mm. Can you sense what part is resistant to us going there?
Our tension's moved right to the collarbone. It's like
Mm-hmm.
just this whole line through the brachial plexus there.
Mm-hmm. And what do you notice about it?
It feels like grief,
Mm-hmm.
like this aching.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you begin to attune to that grief, what do you notice about the part that's carrying it?
Loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
feeling misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
This piece that never felt resonant with anything that was outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing to match, how I wanted to be received.
Right. And so one thing I'm curious about is this part carrying this grief on your right side. I'm wondering if some of it has to do with this part's father.
Yeah, right before you said that, it was the presence he wanted from his father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the desire to feel understood.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
received by him in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you feel towards this part that's carrying some of this grief around his father?
It feels like in some ways I haven't allowed this part to be felt fully. So there's been a bit of avoidance and rejection there, I think.
Right. And what's your willingness to feel some of that with him in this moment?
The willingness is there. I don't think there's anything really blocking it in this moment to feel into that.
Great. So let this part know that you're open to really feeling and understanding the grief that he carries.
I'm starting to feel that flood of emotion come through.
Great. And you feel like you're able to stay with it?
Yeah, I feel present with it right now.
Great.
It feels like it's been like really exhausted, this piece, just like heaviness.
Yeah.
And it feels pretty ancient, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not my own lifetime only.
Mm-hmm. It's more of an accumulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful opportunity to just feel and create space for the pattern itself of boys, young men, or just children not feeling understood by their father. And how is it for this part to really have you there with him now?
That loneliness that it felt was more, it was not the disconnection externally, it was the internal disconnection. It was kind of this, this exile that wanted my attention.
Yeah.
And that behind all the grasping around substances, it was really trying to pull my attention to feel into this more.
Yeah. And so you notice that part that was grasping at substances was also keeping you away from this grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So as you're with it, just as you're doing, follow your body. And see how that energy wants to or needs to move.
It's moving down into my thumb and my pointer finger as it releases from the shoulder.
Great.
And then there's this diagonal pattern down to my left gut.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. And I've noticed lately this tension pattern diagonally through here.
Mm-hmm.
That not only do I need to feel it here, but feel it within the feminine as well. There's grief goes both ways.
Yeah. So just keep following and tracking the body.
A lot of energy moving through the biceps.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there too. As I'm actually putting my hands into these pieces, it's like, it feels like safe, masculine love, right? That I've always avoided too. Like touch and just open and vulnerability that way that this piece wanted as well.
Great. It's beautiful that you can really now show up for this part in the way that it needed, but in a way that wasn't available back then.
Now I feel this energy flowing from the basically deep in my right root all the way up and out on my arm.
Mm-hmm. And so as you're working with that, what you can do is you can call in one of the elements. either earth, fire, water, or wind. You can ask this part which element it would like to call in to help support the process.
It wants water.
Yeah. It's a great element for grief. So let's call in the water element. And so as you're tracking your body and allowing the energy to move, you can invite the water element in to help transmute some of it as it's working its way out.
I have an image of like a natural spring at my root,
Beautiful.
sending that up that right channel and out my hand.
Great. So stay with that. You just stay with that and just continue till you feel like it's come to a completion in terms of some of that energy moving. I can feel it really opening up.
Yeah, there's a lot there that's still moving.
Great. So just stay with it. Also go into your lungs. See if there's any grief in the lungs.
Yeah.
And just keep the water element in your field. So you breathe into the lungs and just allow it to move into the water element as you move it out. Great. Can also invite in the support of male ancestors, because I can sense them in your field, especially on the right side. Just invite them to help you move some of that out.
Ooh.
Beautiful. How's that part doing?
Looks good. It feels like I'm at a place of more stillness now.
Great.
There's just a big cool sensation through the whole pec and chest,
Great.
all the way down to the hand. And I can feel just like this steady masculine presence on this side as well.
Mm-hmm. So breathe that in now. Breathe in that steady, healthy masculine. Now that there's more space and room for it. And really let that part receive that steady, healthy masculine energy. Great. How's that part doing?
Good. It wants to just root down now.
Great.
So I'm sending that breath into the root and just consolidating it there.
Awesome.
Feels stable. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm curious if we now go back to those two protectors, starting with the one in the throat. I'm just curious how it's responded to some of the work that we just did with the part that it protects.
Yeah, there's this like my voice feels like it's deeper and there's more room here for the vibrations of the sound to come through.
Awesome. Now, I just want to check in if it feels fully clear in the voice or if there's any, bless you, or if there's any of that legacy burden of religious persecution that also needs to be unloaded, which we can do for it if it's still there. So just check in about that.
There's more space, but now I feel like this, instead of being so localized on the right, it's directly centered deep in here, like there's a knot.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like I'm bringing in both a masculine and a feminine voice now.
Great.
That's been blocked. The balance of the two.
Great.
And
So
I
just
have
check
this,
in and see what's needed for that knot to open.
I have this image of my ancestors like standing behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like they need acknowledgement of their voice that was silenced.
Mm-hmm. Does it feel like
Yeah.
something you're able to do?
Yeah, it's like this. I'm the one generationally that needed to break the silence for
Mhm.
all of
Great.
that stifled all of their individuality, really, and their self-expression.
Great. So how does it feel for this part to open up even more space in your voice so you can be that vessel?
This part feels ready and that it's time. And actually, with those other parts relaxing, it feels there's really no fear there now.
Great.
It's just this willingness to speak when the intuition wants to flow through into word, basically.
Beautiful. So lastly, I'm wondering if we can release some of the contracts that these two protectors have been carrying, and we can just go one at a time.
Hmm.
Just to complete some of this. How does that feel?
Feels good. Yeah.
So since we're with the part in the throat, maybe we'll start there. So let's speak the contract that this part has been carrying. And it might sound something like, I, Mac, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will suppress my own voice in order to avoid religious persecution or rejection from my father, no matter the cost to myself, something like that.
Yeah, that feels accurate. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So let's have you repeat that out loud for this part.
I, Mac, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will suppress my own voice in order to avoid religious persecution or judgment from my father,
no matter the cost to myself.
no matter the cost to myself.
All right, just breathe for a moment. And step into your essential self. Have this part separate out a little bit from you. And let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Great. And so say to this part, as our essential self, I release you from this contract.
As our essential self, I release you from this contract,
And I revoke this vow.
and I revoke this vow.
Good. Just breathe for a moment. You can invite this part to take that contract and hand it over to one of the elements: earth, water, fire, or air.
The contract's being carried away on the wind.
Awesome.
And as that happens, there's this opening into my lungs.
Great. And so now you can breathe this unburdened part back into you. And then whenever that feels complete, we can just go to the addict part that we started with.
Yeah, that part. It feels complete.
Great. So let's go to the part that we started with. And let's state this part's contract, which would be, I, Max, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will use addictive patterning in order to block big emotions and help regulate myself and my family, no matter the cost to myself. Something like that.
Yeah. I, Mac, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will use addictive patterning to block my emotional state and to help regulate myself and my family, no matter the cost to myself.
Great. Just breathe for a moment. And step into your essential self. Invite this part to separate out a little bit.
Okay, I'm there.
Great. And so whenever you're ready, as our essential self, I release you from this contract.
As our essential self, I release you from this contract,
And I revoke this vow.
and I revoke this vow.
So just breathe. Invite this part to hand that contract over to one of the elements.
It wants earth,
Awesome.
and grounding is what it wants, yeah.
So you can have this part bury the contract in the earth. You can actually do like a burial. If that feels right.
what I'm getting the image of is putting it at a base of it, like in the trunk of a tree, and then the roots carrying it down into the earth.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that feels complete.
Awesome. Now just breathe them back into you in that unburdened state. And then just let me know when that feels complete in your system.
That feels complete.
Beautiful. And so just take your time whenever you're ready. You can just slowly begin to bring yourself back. And just take your time. Some beautiful work, man.
Yeah, it was.
Welcome back.
Thank you. There were some pieces that, we've been in a year of this work or more and still hadn't accessed a lot of that.
Yeah, this work's very often very layered.
Mhm.
I love the saying, you can't go too deep, but you can go too quick. And so it always has to go one layer at a time. And with a lot of this parts work, if you try and go too quick, you get a lot of backlash from parts.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, when we were doing this work, we always need protectors' permission to go anywhere.
Yeah.
If we go anywhere too soon, then there is that backlash, which is also, as you know, one of the challenges with people overusing psychedelics is when the protectors are not really on board, post ceremony or post usage, there will be a backlash in the system. And that's where people often have a dip after their high, so to speak.
Yeah. That's where my mind went as well. It's like I've experienced more like this collapsing of those parts, right? Where, you feel open and expanded, then all of a sudden it's like constricted afterwards. And you wonder how you shifted those states so quickly, right?
Yeah. So the consent piece is always so important. Beautiful. So Mac, thank you for your courage to step into this space and to be so vulnerable, on this platform. It's really an honor to have you, and just really want to honor the warrior of the heart in you that is willing to make himself available, not just in our one-on-one container, but obviously, in this session and episode together. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It feels like, just letting other men especially know that you can be vulnerable. You can go into these emotional states that we so often just numb ourselves out from, right? And so that's been a big pattern with a lot of these addictions. For me, it's been the numbness, right? And not having the courage to really feel into that. So hopefully this can help somebody else out there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of something I shared with you guys in our last call in our men's group, which is that a knight wears armor with no crown, and a king wears a crown with no armor. So thank you for taking your armor off today and claiming your crown through the strength of your vulnerability.
Well, thank you for making it a safe enough space to do that. So you always
Of
do.
course.
And I have immense gratitude for it. So,
Of course. And so before we close, is there anything that you would like to share about your work and what you're stepping into? And I know some of the content that you started creating, the blog that you started, your writing is really beautiful. And so I just want to give you a chance to direct people to any of the work that you're starting to step into now.
yeah. A big piece of my healing has been getting more in touch with my creativity, right? And so that started, about a year ago with a lot of art. You can see a painting behind me as well that um, really just trying to work with the unconscious in that way. So, and that's art. But then the blog has really been something I've been focused on the last few months. So you can follow me on Substack at McKayan888. So McKayan 888. And a lot of the writing there is just about my own healing journey, right? And topics that feel really fresh in my field. Like that's what I just try to tap into and write about. A lot around healing from addiction, especially like shame and the cycle with that, as well as speaking about religious trauma, which I think sometimes people are hesitant to speak up about, especially coming from like the Mormon and LDS background that I came from. It's really been conditioned, especially with a lot of people that leave the church, to not speak out. You can leave, but stay quiet about it, right? And so for me, it's been a practice of, you know, not taking that religion on as an enemy, but just being authentic about my experience of how I've found healing through that. And then, I write quite a bit around psychedelics and plant medicine use and how that's helped my healing too. So those would be the topics you would expect to find, in the blog. I'm pretty active on X as well. So same handle, McKayan888, and Instagram too. So same handle across the board. And all the themes are across each platform as well. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, Mac, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you to all the listeners for going on this beautiful journey with us today. And, I hope you found something in it for yourself. Because if we're really honest, we can see a little bit of ourselves in everyone. So that's why I wanted to bring Mac on and do this immersive coaching and healing session, is because, what we're healing in ourselves, we're all healing collectively. And so I'd invite you to obviously subscribe to my podcast and share it with anyone that you feel like would be supportive. And Mac, thank you again for coming on. And I look forward to sharing something special with you guys next week.